All right, you guys, welcome to a special episode of Car Talk. I'm your host, Big Mike, right here with...
Ryan Bossery from Rywire.
And today, I told Ryan I want to dedicate an episode specifically to him, which is a little bit different because, yes, we talk about personal experiences, and people ask us about that. But, this one, let's do for you, which I really believe is also for the community. This build that he's done is really ripping the internet in half. There's a lot of really dramatically negative and really dramatically positive, going on. So This episode is dedicated to the all-electric S2000, aka the EV S2K build that debuted at the Turn 14 period correct unveiling with Chris and Dai's 190E. So the internet has blown up. I mean, on Super Street's post, Ryan, I believe there was like 200 something comments on that one post alone.
Right.
I've done a bunch of polls and questions on my IG. You did one on yours, and there's just obviously some recurring ones.
Yeah.
But
there's some easy ones and there's
some easy ones and there's
involved ones.
Involved in some really good ones. So, Ryan, let's get into this, okay? So you guys, all of your questions and comments, both good and bad. We're not just going to talk about the good. We're going to bring in the bad ones. That's normal. We're going to bring them up right here. Ryan knows some of these, and some of these he has no idea, okay? But we're going to answer them for you guys to answer every question that's being asked on every post and every repost. And there's a lot of video coverage going to come out. But right now, you guys are going to get the inside scoop from the man himself. Okay, Ryan?
I'm ready.
Ready. Okay.
Let's do it.
So, why the hell did you build an electric S2000?
Why did I do it? Okay, so first and foremost, whether I was interested or not,
yes,
I saw the future was EV.
Yes.
With Governor Newsom's projected, in 15 years it's going to be all electric cars. I personally don't think that in 15 or 10 or whatever he said, the infrastructure would ever support that. With the amount of charging necessary, rapid chargers everywhere, there's a lot of problems and a lot of things that would need to be perfectly in line for that to happen. But aside from all that, I felt that all these OEMs are really embracing it.
Yes.
And I felt like I need to embrace it too. I always feel like I want to be on like the leading edge of everything. Everything new and, especially really big, important things like electrification.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, just working with Bisimoto a little bit and working on his project a little bit got me thinking, like, I'm not even gonna lie, dude. Like, last year, I was like, a Tesla swap is too easy. I want to do a parallel hybrid system.
Yes.
And I do have workings right now. I'm strategizing for a parallel hybrid system, which is a gasoline engine with an electric motor assisting the gasoline engine. So think about electronic supercharger or something like that, just to dumb it down. But once I was kind of helping him a little bit with his car, wiring up a few things for him, messing with battery management systems and stuff, I was like thinking about it going, I really need to learn this, and I need to understand fully everything that's going on.
Yes.
Working on his project kind of just made me think like I want to just do a Honda. And I love my I have an S2000, a factory one that I drive every day.
Yes.
Blue. What's the color? Suzuka. I was trying to think of the racetrack in Japan. But anyway, so Suzuka Blue S2000. I drive it every day. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
And I thought an S2000 would be the perfect car to try this on. And I don't want to do it on my Suzuka Blue one because I like shifting the car.
Be what it is.
I want it to be what it is. I want to have kind of a direct comparison. So I got another chassis, a shell. Belade Sports from next door. They actually like had a car and, we're kind of built. They're helping me a lot with the car. And I just wanted to just do a EV car.
Okay.
And that's the real reason. I just felt like it's the next thing.
It's the next thing. It's the future. I want to do it.
I want to try it.
Okay.
And that's really the why.
That's really the why. Now, I think a lot of people are going to appreciate the simplicity of that answer, and a lot of people are going to be like, come on, right? But you know what, guys?
That's the truth.
It's kind of fascinating.
You know how I am, right? I'm just like, I'll do it.
Let's do it.
Let's just do it.
Well, to really touch on a couple other things, really, in an IG live stream that I did with you, you guys watch that on my IGTV channel. Ryan's answering. Some of them are going to be the same questions, but we're videoing and showing you underneath the car. They will get to see it that way. Yeah. And I also have some great photos that I'll be posting. But that video shows what is going on underneath, not just from above, like the ones that are currently all over
the ones
internet.
where you're just seeing the outside of the car and stuff.
And then episode 4 of Car Talk, we were talking about SEMA and what we're building for it, which was shot before SEMA announced that they weren't going to do it, and they ended up doing SEMA 360.
Correct.
But in that episode, Ryan gets into that, and there's a little bit more of the philosophical why. It was actually much more lengthy about where your mind was. So you guys, for the people who are new here, there's going to be a ton of people who are going to find this while hearing about the S2. Go back to episode 4. We touch on it in episode 5 as well. And then go to my personal IG, The Big Mike, at The Big Mike. Please take the time to watch that live. Ryan goes over things in person underneath the car. Okay? So, all right, Ryan, let's keep it going, right? I think people, you talked about your S2. That's your daily. You wanted to keep that one, but you wanted to do an S2, right? So you got to that point. What do you say to the people that say you fucking ruined the S2000?
Well, okay.
What is your response to that?
I don't feel that I ruined this S2000 because I didn't take an engine out of it. It was a pretty beat shell
An empty
that wasn't
shell.
even barely rolling. So and I still have an S2000 that's stock that has a 6-speed and an F22 in it.
Okay. So
I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, I didn't ruin that car because that car was already like almost headed to the junkyard, right?
All right.
So I could have like gotten another engine and
Sure.
put it in there, but I chose to just do a motor.
Okay. You said you could have gotten another engine and put it in there, but you chose to do a motor. We have touched on this in another episode, but once again for the people watching, what is the difference between an engine and a motor?
An engine is combustion.
Yes.
And a motor is electric.
Okay. Is there an exception to that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay,
but
so
there's a combustion engine.
It's a combustion
and
engine.
Like to mix those two up.
And an electric motor. Okay, so why do they call it motorsports instead of engine sports?
Sounds better.
Okay. All right. There we go. For those of you that watched Best Motoring back in the day, it wasn't Best Engineering.
Yeah.
All right? Okay. Anyways, let's keep it going here. All right. Now, all right. The S2000 is known as a driver's car.
Yes.
Right? S2000 is known as a driver's car. A fantastic mass production vehicle. Highest.
I love it.
Highest horsepower ratio, from the displacement ratio.
Per liter, yeah.
Per liter, up until, I think, a Ferrari or something like that. 9,000, almost a perfect weight distribution.
Sure.
It's a driver's car. And one kind of specified question that came up was, how does not having a manual transmission take away from that S2000 being a driver's car experience now that it's transmission-less, right? How do you answer that?
I mean, honestly, I was driving home my stock S2000 a couple months ago, driving home from the shop, going, man, am I going to miss this gearbox? And yeah, I probably will miss that gearbox. I'm not going to lie. It's the truth because the gearbox and the engine is awesome. It's an awesome, I mean, that's why people love S2000s.
Yes.
But still the handling, the way I fit in the car,
yes,
the way that the interior is shaped, everything about the S2000 I fully love. So just taking away the high revving sound and the shifting, like the gearbox.
Yes.
But
difficult.
But then you're adding massive amounts of torque and power. So yeah, there's a trade-off. And obviously you can like turbocharge the engine, right? But if you're just comparing like what I have now, which is a stock
F22C.
F22.
Yeah.
And a Tesla powered, they're just different.
It's different.
But it's still the same feeling car.
I think some people aren't really going to understand that.
Sure.
Right? How could it still be the same feeling?
The surroundings, the cockpit, the way that the car turns and moves is all it's all the same.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, the more that I drive the car and the more data that I get off of that car,
yes,
I'll be able to answer that question a bit more.
Okay, and that's important, right? So let's bring that in, data, right? Okay, so there's just a recurring amount of questions about that. There's people who are all about the wheels. We're going to get into that. There's people all about the aesthetics, the grille, the front. And then there are the people who are really about its performance. So one of the more recurring set of questions that I was able to gather, and you did as well, is, all right, let's hit some of those.
Sure.
Okay. How fast is it? Right? Now, for those of you watching, there's a difference between semantics and an incorrect and a correct term. And I think that sometimes we're all caught up with, well, you know what we mean. And no, because how fast is it is like
top speed.
What is its top speed? Or maybe how fast is it in the quarter mile, which really means how quick is it? Like how quickly does it get from 0 to 60?
Sure.
Or 0 to 100? So let's go with fast and quick. How fast is it?
I don't know yet for sure.
Because you have obviously not taken it at its complete top capability.
We have not. So hard to say, but maybe it could probably go 135 miles an hour or something like that.
Okay. Now,
I mean, really think about it like this. It's a one speed.
Yes.
And it revs to like 18,000 RPMs.
You guys hear that? 18,000 RPM. So for those that are like, fuck you for taking out an engine
that goes to 9,000.
This one rotates to 18,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want people to remember that.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
And
so
quarter mile, like I don't know yet.
All right.
But, I mean, it's going to be a little bit faster than a Tesla S.
Okay. Do you know how much a Tesla S weighs?
A lot more than the S2000, but I actually don't.
But it's theoretically not just kind of faster, but like a lot faster.
Like a good amount faster.
Because it's like more than 1,000 pounds lighter.
Sure.
Like way more.
Yeah.
All right.
So it should be pretty respectable.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so tying into that, right? People are asking about the ludicrous mode that Teslas have, right? So does it have its own version of ludicrous mode?
Sure. So basically what I could do is I could implement a switch and I can have like a low power, high power.
Yes.
Or anywhere in between. Probably could do another switch for like a valet. You know what I mean?
Well, because presently you have it at full power.
Yeah.
So it is in ludicrous mode presently.
It will be if the battery temperature is right, the drive unit cooling temperature is low enough. Like, if the batteries are in range, drive units in range, then yes, you can be in a ludicrous mode, if you will. So there's some like factors involved. Like it won't give you full kilowatt if you don't have the right temperature in the batteries.
Sure.
So like
just like a VTEC pressure.
Yeah, or
solenoid.
just like a Tesla actually. It doesn't allow you in, because everything's like this automated electronics, so you feel like it's this like spaceship kind of feeling in a Tesla where you're like activation mode on and it's like warming and then it's like warming the batteries and then it allows you in and then you go like it's this different feeling. My system is the same, but it's not the same feeling of this like...
Right, because it doesn't have the 13.1-inch screen. Yeah,
you don't have all these interactive buttons that you have to flip through. I wanted mine to actually be like more just like an S2000 feeling.
Yes.
So I don't have a keypad. I don't have a screen. And I did that on purpose because we both know that I could put a screen in it and I could put... CAN-based keypad unit that has all these buttons. But I didn't want that. I actually wanted it to be... I take my key, I unlock my electric locks.
Yes.
I can roll down my windows, I put my key in, I turn it on, and I moved a little, like it's not this like crazy interactive, and I wanted it to be very,
which you could have done.
Sure, I'm using factory steering stocks to turn my lights on the same way. The indicators all function the same. I really wanted it to feel like an S2000 because that's the thing. I didn't want to feel like I was in a different car than my Suzuka Blue S2000. I wanted them to be as close as they could.
I think that that's a very good point, you guys, because what he's basically saying is he wanted to keep the feel and almost the soul of an S2000.
I was trying to.
Which is what most people think that you have absolutely fucking ruined. So while people are over here, we just got pages of people talking about you ruined an S2000. Yeah, I get it, EV's the future, but that's Honda's race car, rear-wheel drive, perfect balance, and you took out the soul. He's over here, you guys, talking about how he wanted to
trying to keep it
to
in,
maintain the soul, and I think that's kind of a fascinating paradox that people don't even understand.
Yeah. So one thing I want to mention about like creature comforts,
yes,
right, is that I don't have right this second, but I am preparing and I already pre-wired for an air conditioning system.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So because the car I want it to be very streetable, very daily driver. I wanted to keep air conditioning, and I'm using a high voltage AC compressor.
Yes.
Okay. And that's 400 volt system. The AC should get very cold.
Yes.
I also have a heater.
Yes.
So I was
It's a high voltage heater.
It's high voltage heater. So I was kind of proud of myself because I was like, hey, what do I do to retain a heater? I was like, well, I have batteries that generate heat. I have a drive unit that generates heat. I was thinking about the old-fashioned way. How do I get hot water into a heater core?
Yes.
But then I started thinking about it like there's got to be other ways. So I started researching and finding that there's actually a friend of mine told me that that's what he ended up using, and then another guy was like, oh, you can buy it over here, and this other place had. Oh, I just like, oh my god, this is the way to go.
Yes.
So I basically found this high voltage heating element that essentially fit where the heater core was.
Yeah.
And I shoehorned it in and made little brackets and made it fit into the factory system. And with that being said, I was able to retain all the, outside air, recirculation, if you want the air to duct to your feet, if you want all that, the HVAC system is literally like stock. Really cool thing is what I found out is when you turn the knob and you go from the blue cold and you cross over into the red.
Yes.
The second that it hits red, it turns another valve. And when that valve moves, what I did was I rigged up this little switch, and it's a momentary switch. So manually, when that thing moves, it actually physically hits the switch.
Yes.
And that turns on it activates the contactor, which is a relay.
Mm-hmm.
And sends power to the high voltage heater. So when I'm on red,
yes,
the high voltage heater's on and the fan is blowing.
Yes.
And I can change the speed of the fan.
Yes.
And that'll give the inertia of the heat in the car. So if you turn it back the other direction, it'll unclick the momentary switch and it'll turn off my heat. And then I can have all my like cooler fan modes and stuff like that. So I was actually able to kind of retain everything, all the creature comforts of the S2000.
You guys, I think that's a very good series of things to really latch onto, because I know that because I've been here and I've watched him develop, okay? And those of you that follow Ryan's YouTube channel, he actually shows you a lot of what he just described.
Yeah.
So for all of the new people who are subscribers to Car Talk, who might not even be subscribers, you guys are just watching because you want to know about this build that's, really all over the internet. Take the time to check out Ryan's YouTube channel because he's showing you physically and mechanically and
how he did it.
So you get to have a very real understanding aside from his wording right now. He shows you in his particular YouTube channel.
I also used a PDM to do that.
Yes.
And to be able to basically, power all those components, I used a PDM. We used our PDMs. And I explain how I was able to use a PDM to power those devices, then wire it all together and make it work like stock.
Okay.
So there's actually a lot of info there. I think I may have 1 or 2 videos actually talking about that and how we did it.
Perfect. So you guys, after this episode, take the time to check out Ryan's YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. You can see a build that he was doing before that. It's a beautiful white CRX. Very traditional, Japanese, USDM, K-Series. There's all that kind of, that's more relatable. and understandable, and then it goes into this build that we are talking about here. So there's a lot there that he shows you. And before we go into our first break, okay. I think one of the things that someone who's watching is probably like, okay, I get it. This is why you did this, kept the heart of it, that, but what the hell batteries even run a car like this? So what are the batteries?
So the batteries are 2 full packs of a Chevy Volt. Okay. A Chevy Volt is not a full electric car, but it can go into full electric mode.
Yep.
So you could do like 50, 80, I don't know how many miles exactly, but it is a 18.4, don't quote me on that please, kilowatt battery pack.
Okay.
So
and you have 2 full packs.
It's small.
Yes.
It's small. It gets you, like I said, 50, 60, 70 miles on that car.
And you have 2.
I have 2. And my car's a little bit lighter.
Yes.
But my motor is really fast and it uses a lot of voltage.
Yes.
So if you're in the throttle, you're going to deplete that quickly. But the reason why I chose the Chevy Volt packs was because they're very square.
Yes.
I like the sizing, the packaging of them. Also, they have cooling.
Yes.
So they have cooling ports. The reason why you need cooling and you need radiators in an electric car is to dissipate heat that is from rapid charging and rapid decharging.
Yes.
So when I say decharging, I mean you're in the throttle.
Yes.
So you're in the throttle, you are decharging your battery rapidly.
Yes.
Right? You're circuit racing your car, you're decharging your battery at a rapid rate, okay? Charging your battery at a rapid rate. If you guys ever go to if you don't even own an electric car, just go visit a charging station. They're going to say like CCS, they're going to say Chatamo, okay? These are the 2 like common rapid chargers. And the Chatamo, for example, is what I will be implementing into my car.
Okay.
It's not actually fully implemented yet. It's pre-wired, but I just haven't finalized it yet.
Okay.
But I'll be able to rapidly charge. I'm setting all this up right now, but rapidly charge my car with a Chatamo charger.
Yes.
And that will charge very quickly.
Okay.
And that will generate a lot of heat.
Yes.
So I'm going to need my fans to be proper. I need my water pumps to be proper. And I need my cooling system to be on point with those Chevy Volt batteries.
You touched on a couple of a series of questions that were coming up. And that would be, for example, are there radiators and cooling? Which you just touched on.
Absolutely.
And you explained why.
We actually have 2 radiators in the car.
Okay. Once again, you guys, photos that I have taken and will post up, stuff that will be on his YouTube channel, you're going to be able to see these things, which are behind the front grille, which is another question. We're going to get into the grille. When we come back, we're going to get into the aesthetics of it, right? You've now understood a lot of the technical stuff, explained in a very simple fashion, and we're going to tie all that in together because people were, a lot of questions were, does it need cooling? And then why does it need cooling? And you just elaborated. And then before we go into the break though, why did you pick Chevy Volt packs over anything other out there, other options? And then also, how long do you estimate your charge time is, and what is your range with those Volt packs? So, why Chevy Volt packs?
Chevy Volt packs. Why did I choose Chevy Volt over
versus any
Tesla?
other? Yeah, exactly.
Tesla batteries are so expensive.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking like the P100D set. You can. It's like 100 kilowatt.
Yep.
I think. I mean, dude, like on these websites, it's like a $20,000 investment.
Okay.
$20,000 for some batteries, right? That might be what people would think that the entire budget is for.
We are going to get into what the build costs later.
So $20,000 for some batteries, and I have a budget on this car, and that would have probably blown my budget.
Sure.
It would have changed things substantially and monetarily. So, the Chevy Volt, I was able to get those packs from
2 Volt packs.
2 Volt packs from just LKQ Dismantler.
Yeah.
Boom, they're here like in a couple days. They're easy to get. They have cooling. I also looked at the LG Chem batteries, which are pretty cool, but you have to build like cooling plates for them, and you have to be like strategic. Well, I didn't like the way that the water ports were.
Okay.
So And then a lot of the other battery options right now are either more expensive than Tesla, which if you could believe that, which that's probably really even hard to even fathom for most of you guys, that the Tesla batteries are actually a good value for the money.
For what they do.
But I just couldn't justify spending more than double what I paid for my Chevy Volt.
So you went with 2 Chevy Volt packs. Now people are understanding why: cost, availability, etc. And because they come with cooling, the rectangular shaping, it actually plays out very nicely. For those who've already seen the engine bay, which has the battery packs, it's
they can fit in there.
It fits nicely. I mean, obviously you could have fit more.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been able to.
Okay, so with that being said, with 2 Chevy Volt packs, what is your range from when you would go from 100% to 0? How many miles?
120.
About 120. Okay, and that's driving. This is a guesstimation?
Yeah. This is pretty educated guess.
Okay, but also, not if you are at the equivalent of 100% throttle. Not if you're driving like a maniac.
Yeah. Also, like if let's say you're cruising on the highway and there's certain like areas where it becomes a lot more obvious. So let's say you're cruising at 65.
Yes.
You're gonna get really good range.
Sure.
You move that number up to like 90 miles an hour. Sure. Game changer, like way.
So that's very similar to a combustion engine.
It depletes a lot faster. At that point.
So driving effectively like a normal person, freeway cruising,
you might get a good amount of range out of it, and it does actually charge quite fast.
Okay,
was that the other question?
That is where I was going next. If you are at 0%,
like basically just
completely dead.
It would never actually allow you to go completely dead because it needs some, and then it's gonna be a lot of dead, quote unquote, which may actually be like 25% or something, because their batteries don't really want to go any
to 100%. How long?
To 100% to a full charge, 35 minutes or something like that.
Okay,
so I mean, really, like
minutes.
That's not that bad.
That's not that bad.
I mean, I ain't gonna go drive to NorCal with that system, but I'll drive all over Southern California.
Yes, and I think people will need to understand that, because that's what you built it for, to be a daily driver.
Yeah, exactly. Within Orange County, Los Angeles area.
Sure. Now, we'll tie it all together before we go to the break. We touched on the Volt battery packs. Why? And then we talked about the charging time.
Yep.
So, related to charging time.
And that's rapid charging. There's an onboard charging.
Yes.
That we can talk about later.
Yes. But now, the last set of questions in that kind of vein would be, can you pull up to a Tesla charging station and charge your car?
If it has a CHAdeMO plug and it allows you to pay swipe, then yes.
Okay, because people don't really understand that you have to have a Tesla presently to charge at a Tesla station.
I think that, dude, to be honest,
without CHAdeMO,
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna need a CHAdeMO plug, and I need to be able to swipe a credit card.
Okay, so there you go. And if you can swipe a credit card, the answer is yes.
Yep.
Okay, then can you charge it at home?
Yes, you can definitely charge it at home.
So, what would it cost to charge it from your home? Do you have any idea?
I don't know just yet, actually, because the car's so new.
Sure.
You know, for me, it's so new. But I have a Blink charger, and I have an at-home Blink charger. So what I did actually recently, funny enough, my house that I put the Blink charger at is being renovated, and I don't even presently live in it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be moving back in soon.
Yes.
And we have the Blink charger set up, and I ran 220. So I should be able to get my onboard charger is 6.6 kilowatt.
Yes.
Okay. It's got water cooling. It should take a charge. 6.6 is not bad. It's actually pretty quick. Let's call CHAdeMO's closer to 50.
Yes.
Okay. So just do the math. If it takes 35 minutes, let's say at 50 kilowatt.
Yes.
And this is like kind of all like, there's a lot of factors is what I'm getting at.
Sure.
So, and then at home you get 6.6. It's going to take longer.
It's about 7 times longer.
Yeah, but when I get home, I don't normally run right straight out of the house.
Sure.
I'm home, I'm sleeping, I plug in the car, it's full. So
we're talking about under 4 hours.
Sure.
Very cool. But obviously that's because you have 2 Volt packs. If you went 4, you're talking about double, et cetera, right?
But then the fact that the car is so small, space is...
And weight distribution and things like that.
Yes.
Okay, so we've really touched on, right, a lot, yet there's so much more. Why an S2000? Why this? Why that? How far? Etc., right? But when we come back, you guys, we're going to go over a series of inquiries and love and hate and questions regarding the why behind the look, why behind the design of this and that, and both technical and aesthetic. Okay? So when we come back, you guys, we will go over that next series of questions. For those of you who are still waiting for yours to be answered, bear with us. For everyone who's had theirs answered, don't be a dick and stay so you can hear about the other parts of it, okay? We'll be right back.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ryan from Rywire here, and today I have something really, really cool to show you. What I want to show you guys is that nothing that I'm doing here is so far-fetched that you guys can't do it at home. We don't have any CNC, there's no 5-axis machine here. I'm literally just using my brain and hand tools to get a really, really cool project done. Even in the most basic conditions, a beautiful outcome can arise.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the special edition of Car Talk, where we are focusing specifically on the Rywire EV S2K build. Now, for those of you that are just joining us, we are going through a series of questions. I've organized everything. I pulled a bunch of questions from in-person, polls I did on my personal IG, Ryan on his, and we've kind of put them all together. There are some repeats and versions that are a little bit different enough that we'll address it. So, you know, if you are just coming in now, we've talked about a lot of the battery, why those batteries, the charging time, the range of the vehicle, and things of that nature. So right now, let's get into some of the more controversial parts. Aside from the entirety of it, which is controversial, beyond belief right now. Let's talk about two things, and let's start with the grill front end, because it's not just a grill.
Yeah.
But that's where people's eyes go, right? And then we'll go to the wheels. Yeah. Because the wheels are on everyone's mind, okay? But there was an equivalent amount of inquiry, love, and deep-seated hate for let's go with the grill, because that's the word people are using. So let me try to give you an example of the way some people feel about the grill. Okay, so let's start with something legitimate, right? What is the purpose for the holes in the grill? The shaping, the holes. Are they functional, aesthetic, or are they a combo of both?
Good question. A combination of both. So I do have two coolers in the car. They're not like your full radiator. Yes. They're more like they're CSF Porsche coolers. Yes. They could be used for oil, but they're a 3/4 sized hole on the in and out. Yes. And they're pretty perfect for water. So they're positioned low, and they are in exact line with my airflow of my grill. So they are 100% necessary, functional. How that kind of, let's just start like why and how the fascia of the car is the way it is. Yes. Okay, so I didn't want to just build a car that is just a stock S2000 with the electrification. Sure. Okay. I wanted to build something that looks like an electric car. I told a couple people about this. It's kind of funny, but I was at the Gunther Works event. Yes. Okay. And I was talking to Larry Chen, and I had like one beer, and I like never drink, but I was just like, Larry, I was like, he wasn't just like, oh yeah, go away, but he was like, listening to what I was saying. And he's like, I'm like, there's got to be another style out there. There's something different. And he's like, okay, I'm like, there's the JDM, and then there's like, the stance style, and then there's this and there's that. There's the hot rod style and whatever. But I was like, there's got to be something for like an electric like EV style. And I mean, there is, but I'm saying like in the tuner market, I'm like, it doesn't exist yet. And he's just like, huh. Like he was just kind of like, I don't know what this dude's kind of talking about. Okay. Anyway, so I've told a couple people this, that I was like talking to him about it, and he just like, he got it. He understood. He's a smart guy. He gets it, But he doesn't know what I really was feeling at that point in time.
Which is also potentially possible because you were not explaining yourself very well.
Sure, probably. Anyway, so I got with Cody from Casale. Yes. Casale, right? Casale. So he was like, what color do you think of when you think of an electric car? And I'm like, huh? Silver, blue, white, right? And he's like, okay, like, so he's like, okay, let's do a whole spreadsheet. I want you to, I'm going to brain dump in all these things.
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking in my head, like, I kind of like the Tesla Model 3, how their grill is really, really small on the bottom, and it has this like protruding, almost outward shape on the front face, right? I was like, that's kind of cool. And then he did like a little render, and he's like, it's too big for the shape of the S2000. And I'm like, yeah, it looks weird, you know? Okay. So then he's like, how about this kind of car? Do you like this? How about that? And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. I kind of like that, right? So he found this Volkswagen. What's the name of that car? God.
You know what? Okay, I
thought
funny. One of them was the Vizio, but there was another one.
There's another one. There's like, they have like a car. They have like not a truck, but like a larger vehicle. Anyway, so it's got these like diamonds, and then interestingly enough, there's actually like a Hyundai or a Kia. I think it is. That's a Kia, and it has like these diamonds as well. Well, the diamond pattern kind of like says electric to me a little bit more than just like a circle or a square or something like that, or like a just a squared off grill. So I thought that was cool, and then I really, really liked this Volkswagen that we're talking about. It has this like triangle fog lights that are incorporated into the grill.
Yes.
And Cody's like, dude, we could do that. I'm like, really? You could like 3D print like little LED fog? And he's like, yeah, I could do that. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. So then we're like messing with the design a lot. He was like changing the shape around with his, software and showing me things.
Yes.
Iterations of this.
Yes.
And then he actually came up with the idea where he would always open up the corner.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes. He's like, well, do you have a duct, something that needs to get fed there for air? And I'm like, no, but that looks really good. Just, it's almost this like offset, right? It's where that little blue on the car right now where they accented it with blue. What I'm talking about is like the grill, and it finishes and it dives in.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's dope. That looks really cool. So basically it was just this back and forth with Cody, and it evolved into that. And we originally did it on like a factory AP2 bumper.
Yes.
And then Belade Sport has a bumper where it's basically a CR AP2, and the CR is in the front lip spoiler, chin spoiler, is integrated into the bumper.
Yes.
And I'm like,
well, so that was the base.
That ended up becoming the base.
Okay. So in response, you guys are hearing some of this design process, inspirations, 3D printing. I just want to give you an example of some of the...
Let's hear it.
Some of the reactions. The replacement front is awful. It looks like a shit-eating grin in a cartoon.
Well, I do know that it does look a lot like the shark in...
The shark in fucking Finding Nemo.
Yeah, Finding Nemo.
Right? That's a thing.
It totally looks like that. But you remember the S2000, the other S2000, this one right here?
Yes.
That one looks like a...
It looks like it's smiling, but it doesn't look like the shark from Finding Nemo.
Yeah, it looks like some kind of a shark.
But I think this particular... Because this is a quote. Looks like shit-eating grin in a cartoon. I'm like 81% sure that's what he was referring to.
Okay.
The shark.
But he just didn't know where he saw it.
Or
maybe.
he was so filled with rage that he couldn't word it that way. So that is one example of how people despise the front. But I've also heard people say that it absolutely looks like an OEM Plus electric S2000 option if Honda were to do it.
And that's exactly what I wanted it to look like. I didn't want it to look like the Volkswagen per se.
And it does not.
And it doesn't. I wanted it to look like an electrified... Okay, I wanted it to look like an electric car. When I was pulling into the period correct turn 14 capsule event...
Yes.
I'm driving in, and the car was stopped because the car is way too low right now, and I was having troubles getting into the parking lot. Anyway, this guy walks by. He's like holding his coffee, and he goes, "Is this an electric car?" And I'm like, "It is."
It is.
And I'm like,
"That's
boom."
very cool.
He thought it was an electric car just by looking at it.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I wanted it to accomplish.
So this whole thing about I wanted it to look like an OEM Plus electric S2000 trim option or something. How high on the level of priorities was that?
For the exterior,
for achieving that look,
very high,
very high. And just to let you know, the front end just feels like someone overlooked it in favor of higher priorities. You guys, I mean, listen.
I mean, okay, let me tell you this. If it was not a high priority, I wouldn't have spent some people's engine prices just to get that front bumper to look that way.
I just wanted to say that after we
ask Cody how many hours he has of designing that shit.
I just think it's funny, you guys, because you have people who are so like ripped in half. Okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
about
it. It's like abortion or fucking masks. Like it's like literally
people are split.
It's
nasty.
like Trump. It's like Trump and Biden.
The supporters.
Oh my god.
So
dude.
I joke with Ryan about it, you guys. But I mean, look, if you're one of the people that's watching and you're like, yeah, I fucking hate it. I mean, that's why this whole episode isn't about just the good.
Sure.
The reality of it is there are people who are going to feel a type of way about everything. There are people who hate my build. There's people who hated that one and this one and whatever. And that's cool, you guys, because we are all part of the same community, and Ryan and I are all good with hearing and being open to your guys' opinions. Now, for the people that have threatened Ryan's life, and that is not an exaggeration, someone has literally said that the person who built this car, what's the direct quote?
Oh, fuck. What did he say? Should be killed.
Yeah, should be killed. Now, okay, yes, it's the internet, but there's a lot of things I fucking hate it. I would never do that. Why would you do that? Not, they should be killed. Okay?
And not like, that the person should, die of cancer. It's like they should be killed.
They should be killed. They should be murdered. Okay?
Murdered.
So this is kind of where it is. Now, we're talking about, linking up with Cody. Shout out to Cody from Casale Design, or
Casale,
right? Because that's how you're supposed to say it according to Cody, right? He is, a soft-spoken, quiet dude, works for Honda, does a lot of stuff that you guys have seen online on the OE level with Honda, and Honda factory parts, right? But he
as well as tuner aftermarket.
Really cool stuff. RSX duck bills.
He worked on your car.
He did the fenders.
He literally did that car.
Other stuff. He did the body on this, and there's just the list goes on. And when I was doing a live stream earlier, there are people who kept asking about the wheels, which we're about to get into. But I kept telling them, go to Cody's page, which you guys go to Casale.
He did a nice little write-up thing.
He did a post that shows you some of the steps, right? That went from sketches, reference points, sketches, resketches, design, redesign, to what you guys ended up seeing on the car.
Do you want me to go into that one?
We are going to get into it because that is one of the craziest things about the car in both a good and a bad way. So, let's see here. We're going to talk about the wheels, you guys. Now, let's sort of summarize a series of the questions, right? Why those wheels? Why that shape? What is the point of that design and that look?
Okay, here's the story. I was at Blade Sports, right? I was next door, BSing with the guys, and I said, what wheels are we going to use? I'll be honest, dude. This is crazy. Like, I've never felt this way in my life. It was absolutely unreal. Ray's is like, hey, we're going to put wheels on the car? And I'm like, what do you guys have in stock?
Yes.
Like, what can you get to me in time?
Yes.
Oh, well, we have these, 4 choices. And the fitments weren't, right. So I was like, ugh. So I kindly turned them down.
Okay.
Didn't want to. I absolutely love Ray's wheels. They're, my favorite wheels, to be honest. I was then approached by Rotiforum. Okay. Jason hit me up. Hey, let me know if you want to design some wheels. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's definitely something I was thinking about. And then I got Titan 7.
Yeah.
They hit me up. Hey, do you want to design some custom wheels? And I'm like, oh, that's really cool too. Yeah, let me get back to you guys. I'm not gonna say yes right now, right? Then I'm next door. I'm talking to Blade Sports and all the guys over there, and I'm like, I want to design a custom wheel, or maybe I'll just use your guys' wheels, right?
Okay.
And then Alex told me, hey, listen, like, I have this little startup thing from the Alex from Blade with my friend, and it's Vicari Design, and we are going to have these, like, kind of design your own wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, if you have any designs, you could just have, like, Cody or whatever sketch something out, and we can, like, design it.
Yes.
Right? I'm like, oh, okay. And then Alex was, like, showing me pictures of, like, kind of some stuff that they've done, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, good shit on, like, this came out exactly how you wanted it, you know? It's like, yeah, dude, it's great. Like, the way that we do it is this and this. It only takes a few months. It's, like, pretty quick. I'm like, oh, fits in my time schedule. Keep in mind, this is during kind of, like, right after China got back up and, you know, running.
Okay.
And yeah, they're made in China, but I mean, it is what it is. They're still the same quality. They're all CNC'd wheel, but they're all made in China. Okay. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I don't mind that it's a Chinese wheel per se.
Okay.
It's a full billet. I'm like, because I wasn't sold yet, you know? He's
Sure.
like, dude, it's a full billet blank. This is how they look. It's a full, like, if they start as a full-faced wheel.
Yes.
And then they'll cut in any design that you want.
Any design you want.
And the quality is good. He's like, I have it on this car. I have
What
it
is
on
it,
that
6061?
Yeah, it's like I don't honestly remember, but it's
Sure.
it's high quality. It's a good wheel. Like, they're a full billet wheel.
So they said, here's the blank. It's
Here's
full
the blank.
face, and you cut what you want.
You design it. They take out what you don't want.
Yes.
So then I was like, okay, let's give this a try. Let's
Yes.
just kind of like work this angle. So we were talking, and I'm like, I like the full face blank.
Yes.
And then he's like, well, we should do something.
Yes.
I'm like, he's like, write sponsors in it or something, and then that triggered, like, oh shit, sponsors. I didn't want to block the Stop Tech brakes. Okay. So with that being said, I was like, how can we do this? The next door neighbor, one of the guys that works there, at Belade, was like, he's like, have you seen this 996 Porsche wheel? It has a one spoke missing. Some guy did it. It was like a joke, whatever.
I know exactly what
and
you're
I'm
talking
like,
about.
I've never seen this. I don't know what you're talking about. And so we dig it up on the internet. We find it.
Yes.
I'm like, wow, that looks so dumb, right? And the guy just literally cut off the blade of the wheel, and I'm just like, wow. I'm like, okay, but what if we did it the right way?
Yes.
Counterbalanced internally and everything. Anyway, so what we ended up coming up with was what you saw. Me and Alex bounced ideas back and forth, and we used Cody to basically render things and create design work. He added a bunch of stuff. He had these like you know, all these different things, but essentially what ended up happening is all of Cody's designs turned into groundwork for the final decision of the design. Alex and I from Belade, we measured another brake kit because I didn't have my stop techs just yet.
Sure.
So we knew what size the stop techs were, and we knew approximately what they would roughly measure out to, and we actually windowed those wheels before we even had the calipers in hand.
Yes.
Which was not easy to do. So we did a lot of measurements. We figured out something. We added a couple little design cues at the very end. Cody helped out a lot with his design process, with his renderings, with his hand drawings. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I was the God's honest truth. The wheels came in. I didn't even want to look at them. I was like, I'm scared. They're probably going to look dumb. Like, honestly. Because I am my biggest critic, okay? And I'm like, I don't know that I'm down to go this far out of the box with this.
Sure.
Okay?
And then you open the box.
Then I opened the box, and I was like, wow, the finish on these are top-notch.
Yes.
The CNC work is amazing.
Yes.
It looks like that, you know, it was made in the United States.
Dude.
And they're made in frickin' China.
And when you mounted the tires.
And when I mounted the tires and I put the wheel on the car and everything lined up. Because at first, dude, I was going to just rock two on one side.
Yeah.
Just for fun. And dude, I did these wheels for SEMA. I wanted people to just be like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
Yes.
And it was almost a joke. Borderline, it was a joke. Okay. But after I got them in hand, I saw the quality of the wheel.
Yeah.
I mounted my Toyo tires on it.
Yes.
I put that shit on the car.
Yes.
And everything lined up.
Yes.
Stop techs were gleaming through.
Yes.
I was like...
The window width is perfect for the caliper.
I was like, yeah, like...
And that's when you took those pictures and texted me and you're like, dude.
Yeah, I was
don't you dare show this to anyone, but holy fuck. And you guys, I'm telling you right now...
I think I probably sent that to like 3 people. and everybody's like, fuck.
Hell yeah, dude. You know, you guys, honestly, that is a pretty fascinatingly central issue right now with people. You know, a lot of you guys watching are probably some of those people who just fucking hate them. As you can hear, it was almost kind of a joke, but then taken seriously, using Cody and bouncing ideas off each other and Alex.
So the designers, the Asia designers that they work with for these wheels were like, how are you guys gonna like balance? They were like concerned about balancing.
Yes. Which that's a great point, because people wonder, do they really balance?
So I was like, okay, well, can't they just like put it in a computer program and see if it would like balance?
Yes.
And they're like, yeah, actually we can do that.
Yes, of course they can.
I was like, all right, do it then.
Yeah.
So then they showed me a 3D rendering of the back of the wheel.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that they were gonna have to do like 4 cavities with a really, really thin face. And what they ended up doing, and all they ended up doing, was literally cavitying the opposite side the exact same way.
On the back side.
On the back side. And then they just left a little tiny bit of metal on the face so you can't see it.
Yes.
And so it looks like it's all, whatever.
Yes.
But if you flip the wheel over, there's a big old cavity on the opposite side of the hole.
Yeah, you guys have to see it. And I'll shoot a picture for you guys. It is, when you take it off and turn it, it is the same shaping as the window, which you can see through, machined out of the back, and it makes it rotate and balance properly.
Yep.
That was a question that a bunch of people, they were like, there's no way.
So
and it balances fine.
So we have Rim and Tire Center that's like 2 doors down.
Mm-hmm.
So my buddy Travis is the owner, and I said, Travis, do you got a second? Can you mountain balance these wheels for me? He
yes.
said, yeah. And all the guys over there were like, what is this wheel? I was like, because they've seen every wheel, and this one's like mind blown. And then I'm like, okay, I was super busy. I just like tell them to grab them, bring them back. So they brought them back, and then I'm like, hey, did it balance right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, is there like extra weights on them? And they're like, there's some weights on them, but it's nothing like extra.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, so it was just like normal ass wheel.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, pretty much it was just like, we just went down like any other wheel.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And that actually changed my mind a lot too, because honestly, I was like, well, if they don't balance, then I'll just like rock them for SEMA, and I'll just put them in the right so you can see through.
Sure.
And it,
they would have been reduced to being a shock value wheel.
A shock value display wheel that was literally built for the SEMA show.
By the way, I think it's kind of ironic and cool that we're talking about an electric car with shock value.
Oh, that's a good pun.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that again. But all right, so...
I just don't want to get shocked, that's for sure.
Okay, so by the way, that is a question. If you aren't careful or something happens, can you die by the electricity in your car?
Yeah, so my engine bay is not safe right now, in the sense of curious hands. So I do want to say that there's probably people out there going like, why is this battery like, why aren't they covered? And it's because
there are covers coming.
Yeah, we're making covers right now. We're making some really cool covers.
You guys are gonna love them.
Yeah, I didn't want to just like cover it and make it look silly. I want it to like look good.
Yeah.
So I have some really cool covers that are starting now, and they're working on getting made. But yes, like it's actually quite dangerous. The most dangerous part is going to be like if you have 2 hands and you were able to touch like 2 terminal posts.
Yes.
If you look at some of the pictures, like I have everything taped up, and for the show, I didn't want like this like tape everywhere.
Of course.
So I became a human hood prop. So I did not put a hood prop on the car.
Yes.
For the reason of, if somebody wants to see the car, I literally said, I will open the hood, keep your hands away.
Yes.
I don't want any liability of anybody like,
of course,
because
if they happen to grab the 2 ends,
you're probably going to. I mean, you might die, dude.
Okay, you guys, check this out. How many of us?
If you did it just right.
How many of us have been shocked by our cars, which is 12 volts, right? This is 400 volts.
400 at full charge.
At full charge. So you could seriously hurt yourself.
Oh yeah.
So that was one of the questions, right? Can you? If it wasn't done properly, or if someone were to touch 2 ends.
I do have safeties in place.
Yes.
One, I have high voltage gloves.
Yes.
Which are like 1,000 volt gloves. for what I'm working in areas that when it's not disconnected.
Yes.
I also have a disconnect switch.
Yes.
Okay. So it isolates, mine isolates my negative side. Just think about a big loop, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, right? On the negative most, I have an isolation switch.
Yes. And
there's both packs run through the isolation switch. It isolates both packs. I didn't have it turned off at the show.
Yes.
The isolation switch.
Yes.
I just told people, do not put your hands near.
Sure.
And they didn't. Like,
well, you kept the trunk closed so no one could touch that, and you were the human hood prop.
Yeah.
So you could watch people and be
I
like,
was
don't reach
like,
in here.
I'm serious, like don't put your hands near it.
Right. So I did overhear some people when I was there at the debut with you, being like, yo, I just saw this dude like trying to like touch the batteries and stuff. And I mean,
really?
Yeah, but I mean, for what length of time? Because the only time the hood was open was when you were physically holding it. Yeah. Because people asked me to, and I was like, oh, no, just ask Ryan, right? And the only time I ever saw it open was when you were opening it. So, you know,
I opened it twice for like
it could have been you're over here like answering a question, and you know someone reached in there, but
and like just honestly though, you'd have to touch it just right.
Sure.
It's not just like you touch the battery.
That's what
you'd have
she
to
said.
Be on like a positive negative terminal. You'd have to be like
just right.
You have to be able to touch it just right.
Sorry.
So, but on a real note, you know, you it's not just like anywhere you touch the batteries.
Yeah.
It's literally definitely. You have to do it just right, and it would be bad. But yeah, I mean, like I made sure that I was holding the hood.
Yeah.
And I'd put it down. It was only like a minute or two that was was even open.
So there you guys go.
Super Street wanted to get pictures.
Yes.
You know, like okay, and I even told him I briefed everybody. I'm like, yo. Just stay away from the battery.
Yes. So you guys, here we have, you know, a lot of the technical, balancing, design process, the whys, which is a little bit creative, a little bit philosophical, a little bit artsy. But, you know, when we come back from this, segment, when we come back for the final segment, I'm going to do like a little bit of a spitfire session with you.
Okay.
I'm going to hit you with just a slew of questions in no particular order, and you can answer them as quickly or as elaborately as you feel inspired. Okay.
Sure.
But there, you know, that's what we've talked about: the fascia, the design, the diamonds, the front end, and the wheels, which are two of the most, aside from it being electric, two of the most like angering, provoking things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it has been fascinating, and now you guys have a bit of an understanding for the whys behind things as well as the actual design process. All right, so when we come back, you guys, I'm going to hit Ryan with I'm sure if you guys haven't heard your question, it's coming next, and I'm just going to hit you with just a series of questions.
Let's do it.
And comments.
Yep.
And we'll just go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay? All right, you guys, we'll see you in a moment. Think Bigger podcast. This is a branch of the Think Bigger project that is a brand and a movement and an ideology that was created to better the community and the culture around it. How you behave in your relationships, how you build a car, how you do anything comes from the way that you think. And if you can start there, then everything else will follow. All right, you guys, welcome back. It's our third segment of a special edition of Car Talk dedicated to the Rywire EV S2000 build. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a bit of a rapid fire series, right? I'm just going to hit you with questions.
Let's do it.
But you know what, though? I don't care about the length of your answer.
Okay.
Right? If you answer the first 12 like super fast and then all of a sudden one is just, hold on, and you want to go, we'll do it that way.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect.
All right. Let's begin. Is your build all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or front-wheel drive?
Rear-wheel drive.
Why?
Because if I went all-wheel drive and I did a front motor,
yes,
it would have definitely confused things.
Yes.
It's my first EV conversion.
Yes.
And it's an S2000, so real estate. When I mean real estate, I mean space.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be putting batteries in your passenger seat.
Okay.
So I just kept it a little bit more simple and just used the Model S rear motor large drive unit.
Okay. Does it have dual Tesla motors?
It does not.
Single.
Single large performance Model S drive unit.
How much horsepower does it have?
Horsepower conversion, I don't know, maybe around 600-ish.
Okay. Do people need to be aware that it is not horsepower when it is an electric engine?
Kilowatts, so I don't know, 450, 475
of the kilowatts,
something like that,
which would equate to around 600 something
like that. I'm bad at the conversion because I'm just not used to it yet.
Okay,
but that'll give you a general idea.
How much torque does it have?
I don't know. It's got a lot of torque at 1 RPM.
Okay,
so let's just answer that one with plenty.
All right. Does it have VTEC?
It doesn't have any variable valve or anything.
Well, it doesn't have valves.
Correct.
So it can't have variable valve timing.
It does not.
Okay. What new skills did you acquire in this build?
I learned a lot about high voltage DC current.
Okay.
It opened my mind a lot to all those components that are necessary for an EV build. Skills. It forced me to better understand air conditioning systems, heater systems. It helped me... we wired keyless entry from scratch. We had to program the key, program a controller.
Yes.
Because we use used parts. Belade had an extra key fob, and we programmed it to the box that was factory in the car.
Okay.
There was so much random stuff, figuring out the electronic power steering and the ABS systems and the braking systems, and utilizing the iBooster, and we can talk about that later. But dude, I learned all kinds of stuff from this build.
Okay.
And that was the plan. That was what I wanted.
And once again, you guys, take the time to listen to episode 4 of Car Talk. It's entitled SEMA, What Is It and What Are We Building for It? And in that episode, we got into this, and it's a little bit more philosophical, ideological. You get more of a feel of Ryan's mindset versus technical. Okay, so by watching that episode and this one, right, you'll be able to have a feel for that. All right, now the new skills, you learned a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you meet the deadline that you created for yourself?
Pretty much. Well, the deadline that I originally created was SEMA.
Mm-hmm. So end of October.
Right, which I didn't meet.
Right.
But turned 14, decided to do this private event.
They told you about this event.
They told me about the event. I said, made it to that. Okay, and I made it to that deadline.
Yes, you did. All right, so yes and no, interestingly.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to build a track-oriented EV build next?
No. Maybe one day.
Sure.
But not, I wouldn't say next. As I'm getting older and I'm doing less and less circuit events.
Yeah.
And me, I am not a driver. In my later 20s, probably around 25 to 30, in that range of my life, I did do a lot of circuit days with my CRX and different cars. I'm not fast. I get nervous.
Yeah.
I'm not a circuit driver. I'm also
so
not a drag racer.
you're just really not all that inspired to build an electric track car.
It doesn't, earlier on, when I was doing my Integra, I was that's when I was doing more track days.
Yeah.
When I was building the Integra, and kind of towards the end, I just kind of realized that I'm not as into the track days as I used to be.
Sure.
And it's just, call it what you want to call it. I just kind of grew out of that phase of wanting to race and being behind the wheel. And honestly, I love developing things, and I love trying to understand them and nerding out on the behind the scenes more. I'd be better as the calibrator and data acquisition, and figuring out why and how the car can go faster, and talking to the driver. I'm not really the driver.
Fair enough.
And I found that out in my life, and I have an understanding that I am not going to really go anywhere with it, so I'm better off just I want a car that I could drive, man. I want a car that I could just jump in, I could drive to work, I could leave at my house, I could go to a cars and coffee event, talk to people, enjoy car life. And when you have a track car, you're you're forced to do a track day to hang out with the track guys.
Yes.
Instead, I wanted to. I mean, I could have a car. I could bring my 911 to the track.
Yes.
And I've done events like that with a 911.
Yes.
But I mean, I wanted just a cars and coffee car.
Yes.
And that's what I'm building, is just a car to drive.
Okay. All right. So there you guys go. Now, let's see here. Oh, this is not a question. This is a comment. I hate the wheels.
Awesome.
Okay? Frank from Downstar says that all of you who don't understand it are chimps. That's a direct quote. All right.
Oh, about those wheels. The guy that doesn't like them, he can go reach out to Belade Sports. They could set you up with Vicari and do all the custom design your own wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And he can design a wheel that he likes.
You just need about $4,000.
Something like that. I think it's a little cheaper than that.
There you go. It's a little cheaper than that. All right. Can I get a ride in it and sit shotgun?
I don't know where you live, but remember my range is only like 120 miles.
I just like how he said, can I get a ride in it and sit shotgun? Like, where else would you sit?
Yeah.
It's a two-seater.
So you're going to pretty much be shotgun.
That's neither here nor there. Okay, why did you paint it white?
I always wanted a white S2000.
You mean other than that, building that one for Angel? I mean, it's Angel's.
That's Angel's car. Like I said, I have that Suzuka one, right? And I always wished it was white.
I mean, Suzuka's probably the least favorite color of S2000 owners or something.
Yeah, I know.
That's what people say.
People
are not fans.
I'm not a big blue guy.
Yeah, I mean, blue leather, it takes a little bit of getting used to. Which, by the way, that's what you need to have in this car, though.
Blue leather?
Not red leather. We'll talk about that.
I have the original blue seat still.
No, I mean, like, if you're going to have buckets, they need to be blue. We're going to talk about that. As friends, we're going to talk about that.
We need to talk to Sparco about that.
Okay. What are the seats in the car and what brackets and rails? Because I've never seen that set up before.
Okay. So that seat is a Sparco seat.
Could you be a little bit more specific than that?
I forgot the name. I'm sorry,
QA1?
guys.
QC1?
Yeah. One of the you'll see it. It's a leather one. Okay, so they actually try. Well, whatever it is, they have it in leather. They have black leather and they got red leather.
Yes.
That seat was actually like a trial where they tried to do like Alcantara like patches in black in the center, and
I think the concept was great.
The concept was great. They didn't like move forward with the seat and they just had them. And then I was like, hey, can you get me the all red ones? And he's like, I got one in stock right now, more are coming, but it's not going to meet the deadline.
Okay.
And I'm like, and then he's like, but I have these. And he's like, I understand if you don't love them because it's a lot of like black and red. And I'm like, dude, honestly, that shit would go perfect with the car because I wanted red because I wanted one. I just love that white S2000 with a red interior.
Yeah, it's classy.
I mean, it's classy.
It's definitely classy.
With black and red, and that's my favorite. That's my favorite S2000 as far as OE, right?
Sure.
And the interior we had was all Alcantara with the red stitching. So I was like, I really want red seats.
Yes.
Because I just want my white S2000 to have red seats.
Yes.
And then that's the seats that I used. As far as the side mounts are Belade Sports. They CNC the side mounts.
Yes.
And then the Belade Sports also takes the AP2 rail, modifies it, and kind of does what Mugen does as far as like they kind of have like an OE slider.
Slider. Okay. So there we go. That's a great question. Okay. Is this build too advanced for the mental capacity of the Honda community?
I don't think so. But I think I encourage the Honda community to sit down and listen to this and try to open up your perspective a little bit.
You mean think bigger?
Think a little bit bigger. And I don't know, do a little bit of research and, look at electric vehicles. And I think that they can be narrow-minded at times,
sure.
And I encourage them to be a little bit less narrow-minded.
Okay.
But I think that everybody has the ability to understand.
Okay. Do you think that someone should be murdered for modifying a car this way?
I mean, as long as it's not me.
That's a surprisingly long time.
I'm just kidding.
Question.
No, of course not.
Okay.
That's like ridiculous. Like, give me a fucking break. How many cool cars have I built? And
no one has ever threatened your life.
No.
No one has ever said you should be killed for that.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But, why orange? Okay, why this? Why that?
I do want to say this. Okay. Yes. When I was messing around with the BC's 911 and we were like, you know, I don't know, I was helping him with his like BMS and high voltage stuff. He goes, Ryan, if you do this one of these cars, be prepared. People are going to threaten you. Like, they're going to threaten your life. He's like, I have had people say that they want to kill me over this stuff. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, all you have to do is go. He has a 911 that is EV. Yeah. He has a 911 that's turbocharged.
Yes.
He has another 911 that's supercharged. He has another 911 that's naturally aspirated. So in my head, I go, cool. You don't like the EV one? Then maybe you'll like his turbocharged one. Maybe you like his supercharged one. Maybe you like, right?
Yes.
So he has a car for everybody. So why would these people get so butthurt? That's what I feel in my head.
Sure.
But now seeing this, I'm like, whoa. This is exactly what he's talking
really
about.
Really did.
So, I mean, it is what it is, dude. They could fucking kiss my ass.
There it is. I like that. All right, now, when will we see it race? Will they see it race?
I don't really have plans on like racing it. I mean, maybe we'll go to like Mexico and like do a pull on the highway or something. I don't know.
What? Well, I'm sorry. Why does it have to be Mexico?
Because that's what you say online when you do a pull on the highway. You go, oh, it's in Mexico.
I didn't know. Did you guys know that? Okay. Anyways, all right. Let's see here. What is the weight distribution? Front to back and left to right.
Oh, man, I'm super
curious. Has it been corner balanced?
No, it has not been corner balanced yet, but I'm like super curious about this. So, one, I'm really curious about the curb weight. I want to know the overall weight of the car. I am assuming I actually added a little bit of weight to the car.
Okay.
I mean, I added
you
gobs
did some math
of power.
Here. Yeah.
But I got with Öhlins when we were designing the suspension, and I told them roughly what the weight balance is going to be. A little bit out of the front, a little bit to the back.
Yes.
And I gave them some numbers that I projected just like when I was physically removing components.
Yes.
Like, okay, I got a diff coming out. I got these mounts for the diff coming out. I have a gas tank coming out.
Yeah, so you did math.
I actually like Googled how much gas would weigh per 10 gallons and whatever.
Yes.
I figured out numbers and I added them and subtracted them, and I know how much the drive unit weighs.
Yes.
And
Öhlins made you coilovers.
Yeah, and Öhlins designed the coilovers to the spring rates that matched the numbers that I gave them.
Okay.
So they kind of assured me that if those numbers were at least close to accurate,
yes,
the car's going to handle like normal.
I see.
And I'm like, wow, cool.
Very cool.
I wasn't sure that was going to be the case, but they kind of assured me that, hey, if you give me these numbers. Also, I'm going to corner balance it. And let's just say, for example, I need some different springs.
Yes.
Then I'll just reach out. And I have some friends, actually, that work at a spring company.
Yes.
And they said that they would help me dial in the car. If it is off at all,
yes,
they could figure out what the ideal spring rates are. And then I can just order them from Öhlins because they're not necessarily like holding me to use their springs.
Sure.
They're just trying to help.
So you have Öhlins coilovers, they valved it, and the spring, the shock
based on my guesstimate,
based off the numbers you gave them.
Yep.
All right, and then the Stop Tech brakes, right? But that leads into one of the other questions is they must have seen a picture,
sure,
because the way it was worded is, what the hell kind of brake booster is that?
Okay, so what that is an eye booster. It's made by Bosch. Okay, it is for autonomous and electric vehicles. So cars that don't have assist from engine vacuum.
Right.
Okay, so what's going on here is it's your typical master cylinder. It's got 2 ports on it.
Yes.
Nothing too terribly special. But in the place of the booster, it has a drive motor.
Yes.
Okay, so when you apply 12 volts, it activates the unit, turns it on. When you push on the diaphragm, it assists, okay? It knows how much and what rate you're pushing it in, and it will assist, okay? So no need for vacuum. There's no harsh pedal. The brakes feel fantastic.
Yes.
Like I should probably go around like bleed them one more time, but dude, I don't even know if I have to. I mean, it's wild. They're like it's a really good.
I mean, it is smart braking.
Yes. So also it's CAN bus based. So that device, the module, has CAN data. It can send that information for pressures, positions. So brake pressure, brake position, all that is now transmitted over the CAN bus. I have multiple units that are all over the vehicle that we could talk about later, just what all these components are on my car, but that data is shared everywhere. So if my AEM vehicle unit,
yes,
my AEM computer, my EV AEM computer, that unit can actually use that data to implement and drive, let's say like the motor and give it regenerative braking information.
Yes.
So it's really cool.
You guys,
and
we are going to really go into a lot of... There's a lot of things here that if Ryan were to answer thoroughly, we would only have answered 5 questions.
Sure.
Right?
So let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, because the brakes, the design of this car, I think that's what's going to take... On a personal level, this is not here. Personally, I believe that it's so far ahead. That's predominantly the hate. Imagine if somebody was like, I just put a K in my EG. Would people threaten their life? It's very normal.
Probably.
So when you're so far ahead, right? The first time somebody tried to shoehorn a K into something, people were like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, like,
right?
Oh, that transmission's glass.
Right. So I think anytime someone or something is so far ahead, people are going to hate it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why you've been, you've had your life threatened. And people have said they hate you.
The guy didn't even know me. But
yeah,
he's like, whoever.
But it's hilarious
car.
that would be the comment to come out of someone's mind. All right. So, and there's a lot of versions of that. But,
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Oh, can you? And if you could, would you change the sound of the electric motor? Is there a way to do that? And if there was, would you even do it?
It sounds pretty good. I don't think that I personally right now would want to change it.
Okay.
I have like kind of thought about, how they, how like the BMWs and stuff, they introduce like exhaust sound into the cabin.
Yes.
I've thought about maybe doing something like that, but like way down the line.
Okay.
It's not a high priority right now.
Okay. I feel like this might have been answered if the person or persons were not just watching and listening, but retaining. Is it basically the same thing as a Tesla with an S2000 body on top?
I mean, it doesn't use Tesla batteries. It uses a Tesla drive unit. It has way less kilowatt hour, but sure, it doesn't have the screens. I mean, it's a swap. It's a motor swap. So you can't say that. I mean, that would be ignorant to say that, oh, my EG has an RSX engine, so wouldn't it be safe to say that it's an RSX with an EG body?
Okay, let me answer this in a way for you, because I think that you're just not saying it, but I've heard you say it. And the reason why I'm saying that, guys, is there are people who have taken the entire rear of a Tesla, the drivetrain, the suspension, the subframe, everything back there, and then they integrated or grafted underneath onto a body. So when you ask a question, is this basically the same thing as a Tesla, just with an S2000 body? That's what I think of.
I got you.
And I think it's very important to understand that is not what this is.
Yeah, we actually widened the rear subframe. We used the factory S2000. I used as much factory S2000 components as I possibly could.
Yes.
We literally had the T-shaped drive unit, and Chris from Wisecraft literally like mounted it for me, and it was not an easy implementation.
But it would have been entirely different if you caught the rear end of a crashed Tesla and which no one would necessarily be able to see from up top, but just shoved it up underneath there, welded it in place. It's not the same thing.
The Tesla's much wider.
Yes.
It tracks much wider. So I'd be running over fenders and custom wide body and my
just to make it look like it fit.
Camber and toe and everything would be really off, and it was very important for me to not do it that way.
Yes.
I really wanted it to fit like with the wheels properly and everything.
And that's the only reason why I interjected, because when I read it like that, that's what I think of, and I think it's important to touch on the fact that people have done that, and people will do that again.
I did it the hard way.
But that's not what you did, because you wanted to maintain the general geometry, dimensions, length, and width.
I wanted the suspension
of an S2000. Okay. All right. How much did it cost to do this build?
I actually know pretty much exact numbers.
Are you willing to say that?
Yeah. So the shell was given to me by Blade Sports. Okay. So let's just say, like, whatever your shell costs, or if you already have a car, you have a car.
Okay.
Right? I'm not going to include that number. Blade Sports also helped me out with the interior, because Alex really wanted to put that in a car, and he's like, dude, I want it to be on this car.
Okay.
I had to do the door panels. That was like $1,000. But I also, with all my sponsors, they all helped me out, literally like almost 100% on all those parts.
Yes.
It's about 20 sponsors. I feel that it's probably about $25,000 to $30,000 of stuff that Turn 14 was able to help me with all of my sponsors, because the agreement with Turn was that we were going to do this car, and basically that I was able to, they would help me with all the brands on the line card that I wanted.
Okay.
And I feel that was around $25,000 to $30,000. So let's start with $30,000.
So what you're basically saying is, for those particular parts, obvious stuff like suspension and brakes that we just talked about, amongst a bunch of other things, if someone were to purchase those same items, it would be around 25 to 30.
Sure.
So let's get to the nitty-gritty of the person's question.
And then I spent another just under $70,000.
Okay, so I was going to say 50. 70.
70.
Okay. Now, this leads to another question. Well, could you, silly, but would you build another one of these for someone else?
Depends on the terms.
Depends on the terms.
So this one took me a year to teach myself what the hell I'm doing.
Yes.
And to physically build the car.
Yes.
So,
all right, I'm going to put it into real life terms. What if somebody said, all right, I have a body, I'll bring it to you, right? And $50,000. Would you do it for $50,000?
I couldn't do it.
It's not even monetarily possible.
I couldn't do it for $50,000.
Okay.
So, there's actually a lot of people that have hit me up. They're like, can you make a kit? I mean, a kit is what?
Right.
Battery mounts, motor, rear subframe mount.
Yes.
What is a kit? A wiring kit? So,
how many hours do you have in wiring the car?
I think Ryan Durr and I spent 3 weeks.
Try to put that in hours. 10-hour days, 4-hour days, 15-hour days.
Yeah. I don't know, dude.
About 5 hours a day times 15 days?
Yeah, but like multiple people doing it.
Sure.
So, yeah, dude. I mean, it was probably, I would have to charge, I don't know, $25,000 for wiring.
For the wiring. So if someone got all their pieces and brought you them mounted to the car.
Yeah. Like,
to wire it.
Just figure, $130 an hour.
Yes.
Times however many hours we have into it.
Sure.
It's not cheap.
It's just to give you guys perspective. I'm breaking that question down into a little bit more of a specific breakdown, just so you guys have an understanding of what it takes.
However.
Yes.
If we were to do it 10 times.
Sure.
Then each one of those is going to be able to bring down the price.
Sure.
I could do it once. I could basically copy the exact wiring loom.
Yes.
Maybe I could have, Chris do 10 subframes.
Yes. Yes.
Because I spent about $5,000 mounting the drive unit into the factory subframe.
Just that.
For fabrication.
Yes, yes.
So then if I go, hey, Chris, do 10 of these and do it for half the price.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be, because you know exactly what to do. Second time you're going to do it more efficiently, faster, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, I mean, think about our radiators back in the day. Remember we do the custom radiators,
yes.
and I spent all kinds of money, and you have little problems there, and but then now it's like, oh, well, we make them all the time, and
Yeah.
they're just like $425.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they're ready.
so
They're in
expensive
stock.
the first time.
Sure. So my first one, I already know I'm gonna get taxed. I'm gonna tax.
For sure.
I'm
For
gonna
sure.
tax for sure. So
Okay, we are almost there.
Cool.
Now, some of these are I think very important ones for you to touch on, and let's go with this, okay? This is pretty deep, okay?
okay.
How did this project make you think bigger of yourself and of the culture and the craft?
Okay. For myself, I kind of touched on this earlier, like just the amount of stuff that I was able to learn, and broaden my scope with, made me think, like I'm thinking EV now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So yeah, like it made me think much bigger. It actually like opened my whole world up like times 2, because now it's like every car that you're messing with could be an EV platform potentially.
Yes.
And there's all these different motor options now too.
Yes.
There's like axial motors that are great. You could build them,
but
like
they're like astronomically expensive.
I know, but they'll come down in price as there maybe some of the components start getting made overseas, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, right now their full CNC deals are $10,000 each at least, and you can build them like rotaries, stack them all together. You can do 7 motors, 8 motors, 10 motors. It's crazy. Anyway, but yeah, it opened up a whole nother world for me.
Yes. You guys, in episode 4, when we were talking about it, I think it was, you answered it in a way that I really kind of want to remind people is, I think I asked you that question, and you said, I wanted to do it because I didn't know how.
Yeah, I didn't.
And I thought that was the coolest fucking thing, you guys. And that kind of gives you a glimpse into Ryan as a person and why, there's longevity here with the stuff that he's done and builds and whatnot. Because
everything is a challenge.
What scares someone is, in a way to stop them, is why you're just like, I don't know how to do this, and that's why I want to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool, okay? I really do.
The next part of that question?
Well, it would be, how did this project make you think bigger of the culture and then of the craft?
So the culture, I guess I'm getting the harsh reality that people they're not really open to it. A lot of them are not open to it.
Are those people chimps, like Frank says?
They might be the chimps that Frank's talking
Harsh.
about. I don't know. Anyway, and then the third part of the question, the
of the craft.
Craft.
I mean, that's like the art of it.
I mean, you definitely, like, if I were to do my car again, for example, I would love to be able to be a little bit more creative with like battery boxes and
what, physical placement?
Yeah, like I would want to get more into like 3D scanning the chassis to find compartments to put more.
This is a perfect, because
more like the OE kind of mindset.
Yeah, because that was the next question was going to be, is there anything you would change now looking back? And that's kind of a great segue.
My battery situation is probably my most difficult. I would love to just be able to like redesign some things.
Sure. I mean, that's part of the learning process.
The worst part about the car is the batteries by far. And I'm not saying the Chevy Volt batteries are bad, because I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it's the hardest part to get perfect. To like design right with all the other components. One thing that I don't like about the car with the batteries is that I have 4 different areas where batteries are located. Yes. And that creates
a wiring problem.
Excess cable lengths.
Yes.
It creates the need for multiple, safety disconnects. It's not ideal. I'd love to have 1 or 2 big packs that are just like all encased. And that's really just designs, things that I need to work on. But the S2000 is a very hard car to implement batteries like that.
Like if it was like some big body, like 60s, like American.
So much different.
There's just be room everywhere.
Yeah, use the entire engine bay.
Sure. Okay. So that is tying into what would you change. There's a lot of things you would change.
There's a lot of things I would
batteries
change.
And arrangement.
I would say the batteries, the arrangement, and like the just the fitment of all that.
I mean, the whole thing is you thinking bigger.
Yeah.
In its entirety.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Halfway through the build, I was like, man, I want to like build more of these.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right, and then let's go with this. Let's tie it off, you guys, with this. I think a lot of you at some point in this conversation, if the question and thought hadn't already crossed your mind, maybe it is now. You know, hearing Ryan's passion, the excitement behind it, seeing the build and you know, the photos and everything. How does one begin to approach an EV conversion?
Okay. Well, I guess first and foremost, you got to figure out what motor platform you're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
I chose the Tesla drive unit because it has 3 of the major components all integrated into one. And what that is the motor itself, the inverter. So people might think that there's 2 motors on that. It's actually not. One side is a motor.
Yes.
3-phase AC motor. It goes to an inverter, which essentially makes it now DC.
Yes.
And then it has a gearbox in the center. A 1-speed, normal, pretty simple, normal transmission.
You guys, I show this to you in the video on IGTV. Ryan is underneath the car. I'm underneath the car, and you guys can actually see the Tesla motor side, the transmission, the inverter. You can see this with your own eyes. So please take the time to look at that.
So that's 3 big components.
Yes.
Right? You got to figure out what you're going to use. The next would be your battery choice.
Yes.
So there's a good amount of batteries, and like I said, some of them there's really in a manageable price range. There's only a few that I would even like consider. So you got to figure out your batteries, and then you need a way to charge the car. My onboard charger from Stealth EV, they actually have a DC to DC converter in it. So DC to DC is what it sounds like. You're taking DC current from 400 volts. And then it's pretty much like an alternator.
Yes.
To charge your 12-volt battery, which you do need a 12-volt battery. The 12-volt battery powers things like my PDM, my power steering, everything on 12 volts. It even controls the contactors that are at 400 volts. So it's like 12 volts is connecting a contactor that passing through 400 volts. So that's how it works. You have to figure out all your onboard charger, your DC to DC. You're going to need a battery management solution. So I use the Orion 2 BMS. I have 2 of them because I have 2 96 cell packs. Every single cell has a cell tap in it, and it's monitoring what each one of those 96 cells times 2 is doing. There's a master BMS, there's a slave BMS, and they have some control for relays and things like that. And they have thermocouples on them, and they have they have voltages on the cables. So it's basically monitoring the batteries to the fullest.
Yes.
And that system is crucial.
Yes.
You have to run a BMS for a performance car. Next, you got to figure out cooling. Cooling was weeks of understanding for me.
Yes.
And I think you know that I understand cooling pretty well.
Yes.
I got Ravi from CSF. I've designed my own radiators. I've done all these things. I've designed really complicated.
And you had to take weeks to learn how to cool this properly.
Yeah. So I am using a 4-way valve that isolates a cooler and then adds heat on another circuit, and the PDM is controlling it, and it's getting information from the BMS over CAN, and like it's wild. So there's all kinds of shit going on there behind the scenes, and that's just for the battery cooling. The drive unit has its own cooling. I had to figure that out. What pumps I'm going to use? I have CAN-based water pumps times 2. They look like 2 big old turbos underneath the car.
Yes.
So there's a lot of components,
yes.
A lot of stuff going on. It's way more than I even thought I could even imagine
So that's how you approach an EV conversion. I would say, first of all, prepare yourself. Second of all, have a plan, and that involves studying. You can't go into it blind. Doing a swap for the first time, you could have Chilton's, you can have Haynes, you can have forums, you can have YouTube now. This is not one of those things just yet. you're going to need to do some studying and some research. And you need to be careful because you can literally kill yourself.
Yeah.
You get shocked by 12 volts is one thing. You get shocked by 400.
Yeah, I mean, you get shocked by 48 volts. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, the batteries are kind of broken down normally in smaller packs.
But if you got everything wired up.
But once you start linking those bitches together, you better have some nice gloves on.
Gloves. Okay. Now, we've kind of gone rapid, but yet at the same time, you know, you stopped when you really wanted to elaborate. And you guys, we could be here for hours, right? And I just wanted to sit with Ryan to address all of these questions for you guys. And we're gonna bring this down to a close, but there are a series of companies that help make this happen. This is not, amidst of all of the learning process and everything you can hear from him, there are people that without, it just wouldn't have happened the way it happened. Okay, so let's talk about the network.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because like I said, I had a budget, and and to do what I needed to do, I needed these sponsors on board.
Okay, so let's start with the biggest one.
Sure.
Okay.
Turn 14.
Yes.
Turn 14 made it happen. I mean, they gave me the venue.
Yes.
They gave me the resources, for like introducing to all the other sponsors.
Sure.
And I mean, they were critical.
For those of you that may not even know what that is or what that sounds like, Turn 14 Distribution. Take the time to check out their IG. They are a distribution company that is growing at a ridiculous rate. Okay, you're gonna hear their name more and more. But aside from being that, in the context of this build, they collaborated with Period Correct. They threw this capsule event / unveiling, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more to come from Turn 14 and Rywire. So shout out to Daryl and the team.
Yeah, Daryl. Okay. Daryl was I was talking to the owner of Turn 14 when I was there briefing them for like I had a meeting with them, and I was talking to one of the owners, and he was like, "Yeah, it's cool, but if Daryl says go with it." Yeah. Like basically they put it on Daryl. Yeah, they Daryl's gonna be the end all be all guy. You gotta get with Daryl.
But that's an example of how when you work hard and you achieve success, people above you, the people who pay you, are like, I'm not gonna supersede that. You do what you need to do. So shout out to Daryl, major player right there. Okay, and then you know the big controversy, the grill, the diamond shape, the this and the that. That's all. Well, not just that, the wheels too. Cody,
yeah. Casale. Sorry. So yeah, dude, okay, it started out with, help me do a couple things.
Yes.
Help me do the front fascia stuff.
Yes.
That was like a big thing. Then it turned into, well, I need a design to be, yes. I just need a render.
Yes.
And he helped me render some of the graphics.
Yes.
Okay. And then I was like, man, I need to get rid of those exhaust ports. And then he helped me
the list is long.
I know. And then it turned into like all these other components. The little shifter knob was something I threw at him at the very, very end, and he got it done like in days.
Cool. You guys take the time to go to Cody's page.
And he helped me come and just like put the car together.
Yeah. You guys come. He came over here, helped him. You got to see the page. You can see the wheel process. You can see the 3D printing of the LED lights, which aren't lit up just yet. There's a long list for Cody.
Yeah, dude. He was a huge part of the car.
Okay, and then, your partner with the car, with all the S2000 parts.
Yeah, I mean, Belade, that's what they specialize in, is S2000s. Alex really wanted, from Belade, he really wanted to work with me on a car. He was able to source the vehicle. He was able to get all the OEM things that I needed. A lot of pieces were missing, and he was able to just go like, oh, I got that in storage. Here you go.
Sure.
Oh, we make this part. We make that part. We make that part. So I was able to just grab cool stuff. Go over there, use what I need, and he was critical.
Very cool.
With Belade Sports.
Okay, and then your seats, your steering wheel.
Yeah, Sparco. That was pretty cool. I was able to get those leather seats that I wanted.
What up, Alan?
What's up? So then, steering wheel. He's like, "Oh, you need a steering wheel." I do need a steering wheel. Here you go.
So it's all tied together. Yeah. The harnesses, the seats.
Yeah, Alex from Belade was like, the way that we do the seat belts, the way that they come through. He's like, now is the time, or forever hold your peace. You need harnesses. I'm like, fine. Sure. I'm gonna go get some Sparcos. So I grabbed the Sparcos, threw them in the car, and they're just kind of like back there.
Yeah.
So if we ever need harnesses, we'll have it proper set up through the roll hoops, and I just needed to get those in the car physically so I can at least, if I ever need them.
Okay,
but I'll have factory seatbelts as well.
All right, and then you have what people are looking through, the most loved and hated wheels of all time, the brakes.
Yeah, got the Stop Tech brakes. That was I mean, the trophy kit's badass, dude.
Yeah.
They're the 4-piston caliper fronts and 2-piston caliper rears. Smaller kit, but it fits under the 17s.
Yes.
And that was 100% important. I did not want to run 18s. On this car, Angel wanted 18s, so we got their 6 pistons and 4 pistons.
Big old kit.
And I really liked those brakes a lot.
But you wanted 17s.
I wanted 17-inch wheels so that they were able to accommodate with their slightly smaller, like, street kit.
Okay, but so you guys, you can check those out. And then, of course, we touched on valving and coilovers, right?
From Olin's.
Right?
So yeah, they were awesome. They helped me out just dial in the car based on the weight numbers that I gave them. And if we got to change out some springs, then we just change out some springs.
So and on the electronic side of thing, right?
AEM.
What did you use?
So I used their vehicle control unit.
The VCU.
The VCU 200. That right now currently is not directly controlling the Tesla unit, but hopefully in the future it can.
Yeah.
And I have it set up where I just literally gotta like throw the pins in necessary to have it directly control it. But it's taking inputs from like wheel speed sensors. It's got temperature and pressure sensors like all wired into that.
Yes.
So that's kind of my like central hub. We're also using their digital dash.
Yeah.
So their little 5-inch dash.
The CD5.
Yeah, I wanted the little 5-inch one because it had the best chance of fitting in the S2000. Like I said, I don't want anything really outstanding. I want everything to be subtle and very simple.
Yeah.
So we use their 5-inch. And then we have a expansion over CAN module that I can add data sensors to later, but I'm not really using it for anything just now.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple pressure sensors. So yeah, a bunch of stuff from AEM.
Sure. And then you have this what equates to about 600 horsepower, as people were asking, but you have to be able to deal with having that at 1%. And
the axles
right?
huge.
I mean, because you would just bind them and break them if they were OEM ones.
So Drive Shaft Shop came through with their highest level axles. What they end up doing, it's pretty interesting actually. They take the design is based off of a 930 Porsche inner. Okay. And that's basically a 2-piece design that has a series of hardware around the cup, the inner cup.
Okay.
They basically ask for a core of the Tesla inner yokes, and they chop off that flange, and then they weld it to their 930 flange.
Okay.
And then they build the length that I specified. So I just made a simple measurement, here to here, whatever. Gave them a number. I was off by like. They're basically offset by 1 inch, so one axle's 1 inch different than the other axle, just because the drive unit isn't 100% centered. But they said that's fine, and it seems to be just fine. And then it has the hardest outer that matches the S2000.
Sure.
So just plug in I mean, it took 5 minutes to install them.
Very cool, very cool. So what tires did you put on it?
Toyo.
But which ones?
They are the R888R.
Very cool. Okay, so when you really push into it.
Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, it's gonna be crazy for street, but I mean, just get another set, man.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I'm gonna tear through them with that motor. That's for sure. I'm gonna be replacing probably a lot of rear tires, but
dude, it'd be interesting to see if you put it on like some street slicks.
Yeah.
Because that is gonna hook like wild, man.
Yeah.
600.
But those tires are pretty awesome for street use.
For triple, yeah, a lot of people aspire for those for sure. Okay, so. We talked about it earlier. People didn't realize that you needed to have so much heat dissipation, aka cooling.
Yeah.
So what up, Ravi?
Yeah, we got
Shout out, Ravi.
2 CSF coolers.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're basically designed originally for the Porsche 911.
Yeah.
I just said, Ravi, what do you have that's like this? You know,
yeah.
I gave him like kind of rough dimensions, and he's like, oh man, the port sizing is where it's going to be difficult. So he's like, let's start looking at our bar and plate oil coolers.
Yes.
And I'm like, is there a difference? He's like, no, there's no difference per se. Water flows the same way as oil is going to flow.
Sure.
It's not going to like restrict anything. So we used those like front mounted 911 coolers.
Yeah. So there that was a big question. It was a very repetitive question. Is does it have cooling or water, and why?
It's a lot of cooling. It's more than a gasoline engine.
And a lot of people just didn't know that.
To do it right.
And so your wheels, right? The wheels, obviously, we talked about that with Cody and the design process, valid. But the wheel company that is a part of that whole process is...
let's just say that if you need some wheels, custom wheels made, reach out to Vicari. They're also the ones that did my fenders in full metal.
That's right.
Coincidentally, I don't know if we should say it, but I heard through the grapevine that Cody actually designed those fenders for them.
I see. So I think that's a good point that I just realized.
There's a lot of overlapping going on.
What I realized is people were asking, are your fenders fiberglass or metal?
They're actually metal, and they're about 30 mil-ish over.
Over, yeah.
So it's a pretty cool option.
Okay, and then you talked about it when you are at home or anywhere else for your charging.
Sure. So Blink Charging set me up with their at-home charger. It's a pretty cool unit. You could just literally mount it on the wall. You could plug it into a regular outlet, but I went with a big outlet for 220.
Yeah.
I decided, like I said, I was renovating my house, so I physically went in the walls and I ran my cables. I think I ran it's 220 8 gauge.
Yeah.
Or 6 gauge.
Yeah.
6 gauge. Yeah. So I went beefy.
Yeah.
So that could do that 6.6 kilowatt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be really cool one day to add some solar panels and maybe even do like some kind of an off-grid like power wall. But that's going to be like...
That would be super dope. All right. And then we have the hardware you used.
Downstar, of course. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the factory hardware I feel like is necessary in this car.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to keep it very stock.
Yeah.
But when you pop the hood, I wanted all the dress-up hardware to be the only thing that you saw in the engine bay side of things. So I didn't go like balls to the walls like, you've done and I've done in the past with like the Integra. I didn't like change out all the suspension. I mean, not every nut and bolt on the car is Downstar. I mean, it obviously could be, but it's a street car. It's going to get dirty. I'm not trying to like show all that super clean and whatever. I just wanted it to be... So
you went for the ones in the bay.
I went for the ones in the engine bay.
Okay. Very, very cool. And then, you guys, some people caught the details. There was a very short moment a couple of times when the doors were open and people caught some of the door sill titanium, right?
So, Chasing Jay's, Dominic, I said, dude, it'd be really cool to ditch these S2000 door plates and do something that, says the Rywire S2000 EV.
The EV S2000, yeah.
So then he designed me custom titanium plates. He also did like a little keychain that was a surprise. He did a couple like adhesive badges where it's just like so I can like label things.
Yeah.
And then we did like the cooling plate, the cover that, goes from the front bumper hardware in. He made me a titanium cooling plate, and then we can position a badge. So it's just like I wanted those little personal touches, and he set me up with all that stuff.
Very, very cool. We were talking about cooling earlier, high pressure, right? And you have to connect that using the right kind of hoses, right?
So the HPS, let me tell you a quick story. I was dissecting the batteries.
Okay.
And I noticed that they were using silicone hoses.
Yeah.
To connect all the water lines, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, silicone hose, like you would think, oh, maybe it collapses and stuff like this, but there's not that much pressure in it. So factory was using silicone hoses, and I really liked the construction of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, HPS, like, hung over at HPS. I know a couple of the HPS guys, and I'm like, I think they have this line. So then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I need a reducer, I need this, I need these clamps, I need this and that. So I got like all of my like the worm gear clamps that I was using for the silicone hoses, all the reducers and step ups for different size components. They had everything like ready to go in stock, so they hooked me up with like all that stuff.
Okay, that's very cool. What about paint and body?
LTMW.
Okay, they're the ones who painted it.
Yeah, I mean like I've worked with Long in the past for various projects. He just did Ravi's Evo.
Yeah.
They just changed the color, and he did it fast. And I've had bad luck in the past with paint, you know?
I think we all have.
Yeah. And I'm saying bad luck like just takes too long, right?
Sure. Sure.
Long and his guys, Brandon, I was the main contact over there.
Yeah.
And Brandon, like, every day, like, not every day, but, you know, like, gave me updates. Whenever I hit him up, he was quick to get back to me.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, we don't have this. Oh, shit. And, like, you know, oh, we'll send somebody, we'll get it. You know, like, oh, okay. Dude, it was I told Long, I said, just make my process easy. And he said, I got you.
And there you go.
And I was quite satisfied with everything.
So a couple of people who are, I mean, if the people who weren't so, you know, focused on the front, they caught the rear wing, and they were like, "What is that?"
Right, and that's just an off-the-shelf Exceed wing.
Exceed Japan.
I just wanted something that, you know, Yasu's a good friend of mine, of course, like very, very close friend. But his wing is just simple, and it's made in conjunction with Mode Parfum, which is also a really good homie.
Yeah,
and the craftsmanship of their stuff is just, it exceeds all. I mean, to be honest, like the way that it fits, and then the way that it's kind of like it like overlaps, it hangs off.
Yeah,
and the curvature, everything is just dead nuts on.
Yeah.
So
and it was a great subtle accent. It wasn't like, oh, that's what you used.
Yeah,
it actually fits the look.
I wanted it to be that style, and I'm like, well, I didn't want to throw one more thing at Cody to design, and the Exceed one is good looking, and I was like, let's just go with the Exceed.
You know, speaking of Cody and designing another thing, I mean, in the midst of all these other things that we've talked about with Cody, he also designed the livery, right? And I mean, that's sometimes a very simple and sometimes a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
And applying it and getting the dimensions right, you know, is difficult.
Right. So Young from Auto Tuned, oh my God, dude, we worked through the night. Oh,
you guys, I was here that night until about 2 a.m. Everyone else left, and then I left. And then I find out the next morning at about 7:30 when I'm talking to Ryan, 6.5 hours later, that Young was here till 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah. And so that means that only equals a 1 hour of sleep that I got. Young didn't
before the
sleep.
debut. And he came at about 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's 12 hours, right? That's 12 hours. So,
and the funny thing is that he had a job to do, but when he got here, well, we were like a little bit behind, you know? And he's like trying to help us with other stuff.
Other things.
So, you know, he helped us do shit until he like everybody left, and then he started doing his job.
Yeah.
So,
I was gnarly. I mean, when I left at 2, it was just us 3.
He put in work.
And then I talked to you 5-6 hours later, and it's just like, oh, he hasn't left?
Yeah, and we're still there.
Wild, man.
Yeah.
Wild. All right. And so, well, that's everybody. I mean, that's...
Well, you put in work.
Listen, man, compared to what everyone else did, what you did, or whatever, I'm your friend, okay? And if it's like, hey, can you mount this? Can you pull that off? Can you just... Whatever, man. I'm down.
Yeah,
you know?
but you brought me coffee.
Sure. I'm not beyond that.
You cleaned things up for me. You tightened things down. You changed things out. You did stuff.
Listen.
So it was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, look, man.
And you made sure, like, dude, that one night that we dropped off the car, I had to go get my car and left it at my lady's parents' house, and then, So I mean, you had late nights too.
You know, you guys. The thing about I think the thing about that is that for me, that's not. It's not a difficult decision. Like, I'm not beyond being a fan as well as a friend to just sit back and watch for 3 hours. People bombard you with questions, take pictures, arms around each other, photos, Q&As, videos. All right, let's schedule next week. We're going to shoot it for... I mean, there's going to be a lot of quality coverage coming out about this car. And just being able to sit back and watch Ryan with just dumb amounts of hours and weeks and months and years, really, to get this to what it is. But, if it's like I haven't slept or eaten, and he didn't ask me to, I was like, I'm going to bring this dude coffee. Or I'm going to just help mount a bumper or tighten up the sway bar end links or whatever, So there's just that part of being a friend and trying to help in whatever way. And then, Ryan's a big supporter of the Think Bigger project. And that's why that one question that someone asked earlier, how did this build have you think bigger and the community and the craft? I thought it was a really cool question. Because, Ryan knows about that, the Think Bigger podcast, Think Bigger project is a brand. And it's not a car brand, but this is an example of a car build that exemplifies someone literally, for the sake of the pun, thinking bigger and going way the fuck outside of any box.
I mean, I try to, every time I do a car, I have to do something that's going to be like a challenge to me, or else I'm not going to bother to do it.
So there it is. I mean, I'm not beyond that. When I did my build, you guys, it's my personal build, but the final assembly of it happened here at Rywire. He has his business. You helped me a dumb amount of late nights to make the deadline, which I put on myself, which was that year SEMA. And it didn't have to be, but because of delays, fabrication delays, and all kinds of delays, what would have looked like an early finish ended up being a ridiculously close finish, and that only happened because of Ryan. So, but that always fair enough. But my thing is it doesn't matter if it's a day, a month, or years later. When the time comes that I can return, this is on a personal note, guys, that I can return the favor of physical labor or just effort of any type. I'm okay to do that. So for me, that doesn't need thanks. That's just. We're business partners. We're the hosts of Car Talk. We've built cars together. There's so many things coming in the future with the two of us, not just with Car Talk, but with builds and just stuff for the community and the culture. So, on that note, you guys, I'm sure that you have questions or comments stacked on top of the questions answered and the comments that were brought up. Please do not hesitate. Don't be passive. Use the comment section here on YouTube. If there's more things you want, we can do another episode, for more questions. Please take the time to put it in the comments. Ryan and I will read them and we will respond. I said it before. Please take the time to watch the IGTV video. On my personal IG, Ryan is answering questions and we are going underneath the car, showing you the converters, the inverters, the motors, the battery packs, and you can see how a lot of that was done underneath the car. So that's on my IGTV. And for the people watching here on Car Talk, we appreciate you guys being here. A lot of what we do is more broad, but I said, Ryan, everyone wants to know some of these things. So even though we're both dead tired from working on all kinds of other things, we made it happen. So we appreciate you guys. All these questions, comments, inquiries, really good questions, conceptual, artistic, mechanical, technological, really good questions. So Ryan, thank you for making the time to do this. We appreciate you guys being here with us on Car Talk and being a part of its growth. So thank you guys very much, and we'll see you on another episode of Car Talk.